Hey guys, welcome to the first beta episode of the Neowin Podcast. I'm Rich Woods.
I'm João Carrasqueira. It's a hard name to say. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't really know how to say it. Do we say Jow? Can you say it again?
It's
Without the
João.
last name.
Okay,
Joao.
João. João. Yeah.
All right, all right. Yeah, because your name uses characters that are not on my keyboard. So,
Uh,
I'm sure you notice that I spell your name wrong all the time. Um, So guys, this is our first. Well, it's not even our first episode. This is just kind of a test run, and we're gonna let everybody listen to it, and we hope you guys like it. So what's new with you, Joao, in Portugal? What's going on over there?
in Portugal. Well,
You
I
always
went
tell
to.
me that Portugal is not a real place in the world.
Well, it doesn't really matter to anyone, I guess.
I don't know.
Uh,
When I was in Portugal, I loved it. It's a beautiful place.
yeah, it is beautiful. Actually, I really like living here, but it's tiny. A lot of things don't really make, especially talking about technology and Microsoft. A lot of things just don't happen here. So
Yeah, that's true. But you're very close to Spain. Spain has Mobile World Congress, right?
yeah, that's better.
And
If you're okay with importing things and stuff, it makes it easier for some things. But yeah, it sucks.
yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what do you think of sets? Now we got a story. Was it? It was this week. It was early. No, it was over last weekend. That
Yeah, it was
sets
on. Yeah, it was on
is
Sunday, I think.
apparently dead. Yeah, and it was Rich Turner, who's PM for the console, and he tweeted, "The shell-provided tab experience is no more, but adding tabs is high on our to-do lists." So I took that. So many people took that to mean that Sets is dead, even though he was referring to the console. And I took that to mean that Sets is dead, but we're gonna add tabs to the console at some point. What do you think?
Well, I think that's exactly it. That the shell focused, the shell based experience was what revolving around Edge, and the owned Edge, it's not gonna die. So that makes sense that they're probably moving away from that.
That's true, right? Because
Uh,
Edge is going away in its current form. It's being replaced by Chromium. So that makes a lot of sense. And we haven't heard anything about Sets in how long? Probably like 8 months, something, right?
yeah, it's been a long time. They just removed it from Redstone 5, and then we never heard of it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
So
and for those that don't know, Sets was first introduced with Redstone 4, and they introduced it, they pulled it back, and they said, well, we never promised it was going to come with Redstone 4. And then they introduced it again with Redstone 5. They pulled it back again, and there's literally been radio silence since. And if you ask PR about it, it's the same statement as always, really. And I just don't understand why they can't be more transparent about these things, you know?
Microsoft seems to do that a lot. They're always afraid to like come clean with what they're doing with their things. So it's not really unexpected, but it does suck.
Yeah, and it really is a trend where they're kind of killing things, not telling anybody, and I think we would all feel a lot better if they just kind of said, "Hey, we're testing this thing out right now. It might make it into the next version of Windows. If it doesn't work, we're not going to do it, and that's fine because this is the insider program is for testing, And then they just say, "All right, didn't work. We're not going to do it." I
Yeah,
think we
but they just kind of leave us hanging now. No, we have no idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Rich Hay tweeted like, "Hey, is there any official statement from Microsoft from this, or is that just a tweet?" And I feel like that was a little bit of snark from Rich about about how we're all kind of jumping to conclusions on this. And I pointed out to him that there's never been an official statement that Windows Phone is dead either. It was just a tweet from Joe Belfiore, and that kind of feels like that's how we learn things now. We have to take things in their context as these guys just post on Twitter.
yeah, I think that's Microsoft's strategy. They really just don't want to come out and say things very clearly. They're just like leaving
Yeah,
hints here and there.
I think they're just very careful with their messaging, which I also get because I also see the people that come out and get very upset when something they expected didn't happen. So, I mean, it is what it is. I do think Sets is gone. Mary Jo Foley posted a story about her sources say that Sets is gone, and I don't think this is coming back.
And honestly, I mean, are we even losing that much? Because I mean, when sets was first announced, I was very excited for it. I always get excited when new things are announced,
Yeah,
especially around Windows. But then, like in practical terms, I just didn't. It didn't benefit like my workflow in any way. Like I'm so used to using Alt Tab, and the taskbar just works fine for that.
yeah, and I agree with you because I was thinking about this as well. Because we have virtual desktops too, so you can somehow group apps into different desktops. So it kind of serves that same purpose. Like you, I was very excited about it just because it's a major change to Windows, and that's kind of what we do. We follow Windows, so when there's something new, it's big and exciting. You know, now it's Edgium. You
Yeah,
know,
of course. Yeah,
yeah,
but
which we will
yeah,
talk about in a little bit.
yeah. We'll move
Uh,
on to that.
well, let's move on to Paint, right?
Eh, oh
Um,
yeah, it's still
because
kicking.
speaking of something that's being killed, let's talk about something that's not being killed. Okay, so it was probably about a year ago, year and a half ago. I don't. Oh, it was
I
here's
think
the
it was
article. It was
version
March.
1803. Yeah, right.
Well, I'm looking at the article. It says March for deprecation of the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. So what they did was they marked it for deprecation, which does not mean it's being removed. It means it could be removed in a future update, and it's not being supported anymore. So Microsoft started putting this alert in Paint saying it's going to be removed, and they said they were going to put it in the store, which I think most people were fine with. But now that alert is gone and Paint's here to stay. What do you think about that?
Well, the all of the image editing I do for Neowin is basically just cropping and resizing, and I do all of that in Paint. Weird as it may seem, I
Yeah.
didn't really do. So it's actually very useful to me, and I'm kind of glad it's staying. But that doesn't mean I think it doesn't mean it can't go on the Microsoft Store anyway, because I think that'd be kind of cool. And maybe
Yeah, I'd
Microsoft.
like to see all these apps in the store, to be honest. You know.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. And like Microsoft is open source so many things. Like even the calculator is open source now. So I think if
Yeah,
they open source Paint too, I think some benefits could come from that into the app, and eventually to like keep it alive for even longer.
that is a pretty cool idea. My take on this was just that I feel like Microsoft is really backing away from this whole idea of control, where Windows 10's Windows as a service, and they kind of really tried to push everything on everybody for a long time, which it started with the GWX trying to push the free Windows 10 upgrades on everyone. They did Paint 3D. Then they tried to remove Paint and push that on everyone. Remember, they did that thing where links in the Outlook Mail app would have to be opened in Edge.
Oh
And
yeah.
now that they're really backing away, like, hey, Edge is going to be Chromium now. If you want Paint, you could keep it, and it just feels like there's a lot more, just allowing consumers to make their own choices in how they're going to use their operating system, and I love it. The Windows Update story with 1903 as well, where they're just not forcing updates on anyone. They're not trying to push it out too soon. They're not trying to get everyone on the latest version on day one anymore, and it just seems a lot more consumer friendly.
Yeah, that news about the May 2019 update, to me that was really really major because it's just
Yeah,
such a big departure from what Microsoft is doing so
I
far.
know.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty great. And
Yeah,
like
and all these changes started kind of when Terry Myerson left about a year ago, right?
yeah, that's true. It is an interesting alignment there.
Yeah, and I always feel like Microsoft doesn't care about Windows the way they used to. The message is all about Azure now, and I feel like taking that step back and almost like they're not caring as much is actually better for everyone else.
Yeah, it is because I mean, Windows is more just like a middleman for all the things you do,
Exactly.
and so it's the more freedom you give to people using it, so they can use then whatever they want with it. It's better.
Absolutely. All right, so Paint's here to stay, which is great. What's next on the
Yeah.
list? 1903. system requirements. They
Yes.
publish the CPU requirements, and that's a list that's always available, and nothing has changed.
It's very
That's
very big
about it.
news. Yeah.
It's exactly the same as it was for 1809. I think some of us might have been expecting the Snapdragon 8CX to show up on there, but
Yeah, I did
that,
expect.
yeah, yeah.
It,
But those devices aren't coming till later this year, and one of the big news with that is that on that page is also certain Windows versions that have enterprise requirements, and there's no Snapdragon chips listed for those, and the 8CX is supposed to be the first one. So I was kind of hoping to see that, but that chip's not supposed to come till later this year. So maybe that's 1909, or maybe it just shows up for 1903 again.
yeah, because
You
like the
know?
last time with the 850, right? This is like
Yes,
this is
yeah,
sneaking out of that.
right. That was a story how because remember 1809 had all these problems, and that was supposed to be the first supported version for the Snapdragon 850, but these devices were shipping with 1803, so they just kind of retroactively added 850 support.
Yeah,
So they could do that.
yeah,
I yeah,
that's
I
even like
suspect that. Yeah, I suspect that 8CX hardware is supposed to ship with 1909 though, so we'll see. It's all later this year. I'd like to see more Windows on ARM devices though in general.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's been very like they've been very scarce. And you ask how
yeah,
things in Portugal are going earlier, and they're like, we have no Windows on ARM devices whatsoever in Portugal. Like none of the ones that have come out so far, they
really,
haven't made they haven't made their way here at all. So it's
all five of them.
yeah, we got nothing there.
Yeah, well, you didn't miss out on the Snapdragon 835, which those were just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really bad, and I met with Qualcomm. I think it was when I was being briefed on the 8CX, and I told them like these things suck, and I used those words, and they said yeah we know. They said it was a starting point, and I get that a starting point is necessary, and there's only two eight well with HoloLens there's three now, but there's only two regular PCs with the 850, and they did promise more. So, all this stuff like hopefully Computex is soon, and then
Yes.
IFA in August. And then the other thing with new system requirements is storage. Now you need 32 gigabytes to install Windows 10 1903. What do you think? Does your PC have 32 gigabytes of storage?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure every PC nowadays probably has at least 32 gigabytes. And even that
Well,
is very low, honestly.
yeah, you know what? There are some PCs out there with like 16 gigs of storage. And like, because remember for a while, the Microsoft Store was selling these really cheap tablets for like $60. And yeah, they exist. They're hard to find because really, you install Windows on a 16 gigabyte device. There's not much else you could do with it. But
Yeah.
hey, I do think this is a fair change, and it's actually I think it's the first real change in requirements since Windows 10 came out.
Yeah, because the storage requirements have been pretty much, even before
Yeah.
Windows 10, I think it's been pretty much the same for quite some time now. 16 gigs.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, the system requirements for Windows 10 were meant to be the same as Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 because
Exactly.
it had to be a free upgrade. So yeah, 32 gigs of storage. it's it's
Yeah, I
it's just
don't
kind of
think.
funny to. I think it's a worthwhile change, but it's just kind of funny to note that who even has only 32 gigs.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
just. It's one of those things. I don't think this is gonna affect anyone. It's just there.
Yeah, and I think the people that it does affect won't really care. You know what you know what's interesting because Windows 10 is now what is it? It's going to be 4 years old in July, and there are very very few PCs. Like Windows 7 came out in I believe 2009
Eight.
and 2008. Okay, so all everything that could run Windows 7 can run Windows 10, and there are very few devices that are now unsupported for Windows 10. There was that. there was a series of Intel Atom processors that had a problem with the creators update, and they never got beyond the anniversary update. And then now there's this, and that's really the only thing that's changed for Windows 10, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, we're still going way back in terms of compatibility. I think that's kind of
Yeah,
cool. But at the
yeah,
same time, it's like if you're still using a device with 16 gigs of storage, it's like
yeah.
I feel kind of sorry for you because it's like
Absolutely. And I mean, if anybody's got, it's going to be any device that has 16 gigs of storage is going to be on the very low end, and it's lasted longer than it should have.
yeah.
You know?
You should consider yourself like it lasted this long. That's surprising in itself.
Yeah. All right. What's next? Ooh. All right. Insider builds today.
Yeah, that was just before we started recording. This
Yes.
perfect
This is why you asked me when do you want to do this at like 12:58, and I'm like, let's wait an hour.
Yeah,
It's always at that time if it happens. I didn't expect to see a build today, to be honest.
yeah, it's uncommon on Fridays. It's been like 2 weeks. I thought it'd be on Wednesday, like it always is.
Yeah, well, not just that. It's because like we didn't get a build last week because there was that issue with 18362 .53.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't think they would release the fix and the new build at the same time. So I thought maybe we'd get a fix today and then get a new build next week.
Oh yeah.
But we got both.
Yeah. Microsoft's very giving today.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because obviously we all want new builds to play with. Although there's really not a lot that's new.
Yeah, builds in the fast ring have been pretty tame so far since the May 2019 update because it's just we're still a year off from the update this is preparing. So I don't think that's very surprising.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of like skip ahead is always kind of tricky, and I always tend to stay away from it because there's never any new features. Because I call it skip ahead even though it's regular fast ring now. Because what we'll probably see if it's like previous updates is we're going to start seeing 19H2 builds and new features show up in those, and then the only new features we're going to see in 20H1 are those features that are already in 19H2. You know?
Yeah, I don't expect them to be adding new things to 20H1 before 19H2 is even out yet. Like I don't know if that's gonna happen. There's just
I mean, the reason they're doing this is supposed to be because they're working on the core and they're aligning it with Azure. And I mean, I don't know. There could be other reasons. They could be adding improvements for foldable devices or whatever that they want to test more. Although no one has a foldable device, so who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So
you want to run through the changelog for today's builds?
Oh, so so it's mostly focused on stuff that was even already announced, like the your phone thing was announced yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's syncing notifications now, which I'm not seeing on my PC actually, but
oh really? Did you install the new build and you updated the app and everything?
No, I don't have the new build yet actually, but
no, you shouldn't need it.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter because if they announced it yesterday, I would assume that it should be working.
Yeah, but, I would think so.
I don't know. And the changelog says it should gradually roll out to install on 19H1 builds, so maybe it's just a matter of time.
Oh yeah.
Because if it's 19H1, even my release preview computer should have it sometime soon. But so
I
far,
am going to trust you to test this out because I honestly your phone I'm not your phone is not for me. I'm not a fan of getting notifications from my phone on my PC, and that's it. I I feel like I'm different from everyone else in the world because I wear a smartwatch and that's where I get all my notifications. So I don't. It gets bad when you have so many devices and you start getting notifications from everywhere, and then you just start shutting them off in 99%.
Yeah, that could be an annoyance. I actually
also
for me,
okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, for me, the most use I get out of your phone is the image thing, because like they sync the photos automatically. That can be like easier to move if I want to use a photo from my phone on my computer.
Yeah.
But
Has
yeah,
that
but
improved? It still only shows what was it, like
I,
25 of them? Or is
yeah,
it more?
I believe it is 25. And the syncing process can be pretty slow. Like even if you take
Really?
one new picture and if you're next to the computer, it can take quite some time for it to show up. So it's not
Really?
really that great. And that's
Yeah,
really
I mean,
annoying.
for me, it's just OneDrive. So I mean, and OneDrive already syncs with the Photos app as well, although that's not always perfect either.
Yeah.
We
I
also have
don't.
new phones. Oh, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, sorry. I was just gonna say that OneDrive. I don't use OneDrive because my internet sucks, so I can upload to the
Oh,
actual internet and then just take that. That will work very well for me.
yeah, because
So this
Portugal's not a real place.
exactly, exactly. We don't deserve good internet.
First, everybody deserves good internet. Okay. Um, we do have new phone support, which is I think it's kind of a big deal. OnePlus 6, 6T, Galaxy S10, S10e, S10 Plus, Note 8, and Note 9, and it's very Samsung centric again, but it's better
Yeah,
than
it
just the
is.
S.
They really
Yeah,
like Samsung.
yeah, better than just the S8 and the S9 family. Well, also, I mean, obviously, Samsung is the most popular smartphone vendor on the planet, so
Yeah, of course. There's that.
you know.
The I, Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna keep doing this on like an individual model basis because it's
Yeah,
like,
right. You would think at some point it's just, all Android phones are supported, or most.
yeah, I would hope so because I very much doubt they'll have enable support for like my Nokia 7.1 because that's like not really a major device. So it's
Sure,
like
sure.
I think it'd be nice if they just made it like for everyone. But I guess their point is like maybe they're scared of saying it works with everything and then all the problems that might crop up with specific models, and they just don't want to have to like have some sort of disclaimer that it may not work with your phone or something, so they just say it works with these ones and don't bother
Yeah.
trying with anything else.
Right.
Maybe,
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, so that's for phone screen. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
maybe.
use I've used other solutions. Like Dell has one, HP has one. They're all pretty good in their own way.
Oh,
You know, I'm a
HP,
big fan of what?
HP has one. I wasn't aware. uh
Yes, it's
oh
called PhoneWise,
oh
and yeah, it's although they might be killing it actually. Let me just
I know Dell has one, but I couldn't install it because I have an HP computer. So I was like,
yeah,
I was always kind
yeah,
of just stuck.
they are actually killing it. I
Oh,
just,
uh,
it's called PhoneWise. If you do it, it says effective July 2019, HP will no longer provide support for HP PhoneWise. Um, but I mean, they all do the same thing. Like I am a big fan of texting from my PC and not having to take my phone out for that. I'm just not a fan of notifications. You know.
yeah, maybe you can just disable those. That's probably just disable all the notifications from your phone.
Sure. Well, I disable all Windows 10 notifications. You
Or
know.
yeah, or that's also so.
That's solves my problem. So what else we got in today's build? Something
Then we
exciting.
have dictation in more languages. So still not my language, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
I only see Brazilian Portuguese. It's like they know there's a language, but there's no place. You know?
It's just okay. Portugal is just too small. Brazil is one of those emerging markets, so they got a lot of stuff that we don't. Even Cortana works in Brazilian Portuguese, but I have to use it in English, otherwise there's nothing.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I prefer using it in English over Brazilian Portuguese. So
All right. Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
yeah.
so
English Canadian, English UK, English Australian, English India, French, Canadian French, German, Italian, Spanish, Mexican Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, and
there we go.
Chinese. That's the new dictation support. All right.
Almost half of these new languages are just English over and over again, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's true, and sometimes I don't notice, uh, that like US only is almost like a joke when it comes to Microsoft stuff and Surface devices and a lot of products, but I don't notice it because I'm in the US and I speak English,
Yeah.
you know. And then we have Feedback Hub version 1.1903.
Interestingly aligned with the version of Windows 10 itself. Actually, I was just looking at the numbers, 1903. It's a
I mean, I haven't looked at Feedback Hub versions. I assume that.
It's just a coincidence.
I assume that's how they run them. Now the option of browsing English feedback within the Feedback Hub, as well as submitting feedback in English on the new feedback form. All right, that's the new builds.
Yeah, there's also improvements to narrator if you're using that.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a new command in narrator to give a web page summary. Okay, sure.
Okay, that's
like we said, nothing too exciting.
Yeah, it's really not. Hopefully, later down the line.
Well, you can also talk a little bit about build 18362.86. That's the cumulative update, which should be for all Windows insiders that are on 1903. And you still haven't seen it?
Yeah, last time I checked, it wasn't showing up. I actually have the Microsoft Update catalog open right now to see if I'm probably download it manually.
Is it in there?
Yeah, it is. They linked to it from the support article. Nice. But yeah, it didn't show up. It still isn't showing up for me on Windows Update. So that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't see. You think they just released it to like non-insiders or like?
It wouldn't surprise, like, because the biggest thing in this is the fix for the fast ring, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone just clicked the fast ring button and forgot about everything else. It's possible.
But they do say that you have to be like, what did they say here? Not here.
It just says Windows insiders who are currently on the Windows 10 May 2019 update. So it should be for release preview slow and fast if you're still on 1903. Should be. Yeah.
The knowledge base actually article actually says that you should be on either fast, slow, or release preview, which doesn't make a lot of sense because fast is
so
20H1. No,
well, fast is not. Fast is not really on 20H1, or it wasn't, right? Because they pulled the build from 2 weeks. That was the build from 2 weeks ago was the first 20H1 build. And so that's
when you had
right. You had people upgrading from 1903 and it failed, and they pulled it back for those people. Exactly. So there was a lot of workarounds to that too. You know, I mean, you could have easily just did a clean install of 1809 on your machine, put it on the fast ring, and you would have gotten 18875. You know.
Yeah.
So all right. So Xbox update. So Xbox One is getting an update in May called 1905. And for those that don't know, Xbox updates work very differently than Windows updates, because Windows gets updates twice a year. And so Xbox still gets those major updates because based on Windows 10, that was 1904, and that came out earlier this month. But they add additional feature updates throughout the year. So there's another update coming next month, which is being tested in the preview alpha ring. And that brings us back to what we were talking about before about skip ahead and how you don't really see new features, right? Because Xbox One is testing 1910 right now, and they haven't seen any new features except for what's showing up in current updates.
Exactly. The only thing we saw, I reported, I think it was last week, about the new build that only had the new sorting options for alphabetical stuff, the new improvements to alphabetical sorting, and that was for both at the same time. There's nothing exclusive to 1910 so far, so they're just like making the same improvements to both branches at the same time.
So they announced 1905 and the features that are coming. There's Play Later, which is a feature that allows you to make a list of games that you're going to play later, pretty much. Like, the idea is that there's well over 100 games in Game Pass now, and it can be hard to keep track of which ones you want to play, so you can just kind of save them for later. There's a friends list, which shows where your friends are playing, and so there's an icon for Xbox, PC, and mobile, and you'll only see those icons if you're not on that platform. So if you're on Xbox, you'll only see the icons for PC and mobile, and so on. Message requests is something that they announced for 1904, actually. I guess it didn't make it into the final update. And that kind of works like any other messaging system where if you get a message from someone that you're not connected with as a friend, you get a request instead of a message. And then there's better sorting of games and apps where words like "the" will no longer be. I can't
Yeah,
believe this wasn't included. I can't believe
yeah,
this is a real thing.
yeah. This is an improvement they keep making. I remember they're making this change like with songs and groove music, like back in the Windows
Yeah,
10 mobile days. I think they also had an update just for this.
you
It
would
seems
think
like they
that's
keep doing the same
alphabetizing
things.
101. Yeah.
Yeah, they keep
like
doing this
like
over and over.
yeah. So previously, if you look for the example they give is The Witcher, um, that would show up under T. Now it'll actually show up under W. Like literally everything else that's alphabetized. you know. Uh, yeah. So pretty minor update, right?
Yeah, that's natural. We got
Yeah.
1904, which is a bigger one, and now we're
Yeah.
waiting for 1910. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy with smaller updates on Xbox, because I use my Xbox to play games, and these updates don't really change that, you know?
yeah, there's no need to like make any game change. No pun intended. Game changing. Uh,
Do you have an Xbox?
no, I'm a Nintendo guy, like exclusively
Oh,
Nintendo.
right.
So I
Yes.
understand my Switch, and
Switch,
that's
man.
it. Yeah.
All right. So you don't have an Xbox, and I'm just going to say that the user interface on the Xbox dashboard has undergone so many changes by now that it's just ridiculous. It started out with the Windows 8 core, obviously, and when Windows 10 came out, they called it the new Xbox One experience, and they had this big change to the UI. Right, I get it; it makes sense. You're changing to Windows 10, but then after that, because that was the November update. Then when the anniversary update came out, they made another huge change to the UI, and I'm glad they're not doing this anymore. Is the point? Little things like play later, great. You know,
Yeah, you don't want to have a system that's constantly like playing tricks on
no.
you. You never know what to expect. That kind
Yeah.
of
Well, I mean, you want to know where to go when you want something, and what button triggers what shortcut and stuff like that. You can't just keep changing things over and over. You need consistency.
yeah.
Because ultimately, I think gamers aren't going to Xbox for the UI; they're going for the games, or to stream videos or something.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, let's
Uh,
move on. It's a small update. Unless you got anything else to say about 1905.
no, I don't think like I said, I'm not an Xbox guy. It's nice
Yeah.
improvements, but
All right. Um, Intel's ninth gen H series CPUs, and we also have a new GPU from Nvidia. The GTX 1650. What do you think?
well, I think it's interesting how we always got this flurry, like this array of new laptops whenever these things get announced. So
Yeah.
manufacturers are always running to get the new stuff out.
Yeah,
Um,
so I mean, we heard from just about every gaming laptop manufacturer with new PCs. We have Dell, Razer, well, Dell and Alienware, Razer, Lenovo, Acer. Acer actually announced their PCs with these chips at the Next at Acer event like a couple weeks ago, and they just said ninth gen core, and I mean,
yeah,
I guess
means
nobody
we're
asked.
yeah.
So all right. So for those who don't know, the H series is Intel's 45-watt core processors. These are mainly for you'll find them in gaming laptops. You'll find them in mobile workstations. Also, some just premium um, devices that are made for power, like the Dell XPS 15, the HP Spectre 15X360 has it. So less battery life, more power is pretty much what you're getting. So last year, the Core i7 was hexa-core and the i5 was quad-core. Uh, now you have the hexa-core i7, the quad-core i5, and the i9 is now octa-core. So it's kind of a beast. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on something with that i9 in it. You know,
And you can overclock it up to 5 GHz, right? For a
five
single core.
gigahertz. I know. Wild.
That's
So,
for this guy needs some cooling for on a laptop like that. I mean, that's
oh yeah, yeah. I
uh,
can only imagine. But these machines, like I don't know how many 8 series machines you've used. They get hot. They suck down power, and I'm willing to sacrifice battery life for performance and power because that's just the kind of guy I am. You know,
Yeah,
so yeah.
I get that because like I'm almost always using my laptop connected to the charger anyway. I didn't really use it that much outside the house, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even if I'm outside, I'm never that far away from a charger and I don't know. I'm always looking for the perfect laptop, which doesn't exist.
of
Because you
course.
can't have power and portability, and so but I just want that machine that's not too heavy, easy to carry around, but I can use it to work, but also if I need to edit video, I can do that too. And I find the right balance is along the lines of that Dell XPS 15, and it has that dedicated GPU. So I like it. Speaking of dedicated GPUs, Nvidia has the GTX 1650 now. What do you think? Worth your
Uh,
time?
I think it's cool that they're lowering the price for the Turing architecture, so 150 is pretty accessible.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah, I wish to get their naming schemes in order because I don't know why they chose 16 out of all the numbers. It just went from 10 to 20. Now we have 16 in the middle.
Yeah, it
But
seems weird, right? Yeah,
it's
they could have called it. I mean, if they wanted to stick with GTX, they could have said GTX 2050. I guess they didn't want to get it confused with RTX, which is ray tracing and DLSS and all that fun stuff. So
yeah,
I guess this is go ahead.
I get the reason. I just don't know if that's the best approach to like differentiate from the 10 series and then the RTX series. Just then
Yeah,
it's looking
it could have been
strange.
1150. It could have been 1950, but they went with 16.
Yeah, it was a
so
very
they
strange decision there.
Yeah, so they've already got the 1660 and the 1660 Ti. So we also, along those lines of all those new laptop refreshes we saw, we got a whole bunch of gaming laptop or entry level gaming laptops that have that 1650 or 1660 Ti, which is fine for that casual gamer.
Yeah, this announcement really isn't as like for the power users like the Intel processors are. This is like a very mild entry here. This they just call it
Yeah,
superchargers, like for people who have own cards, maybe they just want a small upgrade to be able to play modern games.
yeah, yeah. I'm most excited about Razer's new Razer Blade 15. It has a 4K OLED display, and I'm a big OLED fan. You know, although that's not GTX 1050 to be clear.
Yeah,
That's goes up
yeah,
to
that's
RTX
RTX.
2080.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
does that still have the high refresh rate on an OLED, or is it just 60
No,
hertz?
no.
Yeah.
It's 60 hertz at 4K, or they're offering it with 240 hertz 1080p, and then the base model is 144 hertz
Oh,
1080p. I don't think that any laptops can do 4K over 60 hertz just yet.
oh
I don't
yeah,
know. I
that
haven't seen it.
yeah that'd
But
be complicated too. It's a lot of power from there. And
yeah.
that, I can only imagine how that would impact battery life too. That'd be,
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of cool stuff. I mean, we were talking about it, and none of these OEMs want to be the one company that's still got their flagships with 8th gen CPUs, right? So we got that list of gaming laptop announcements that day. You know.
yeah, of
So
course they always do that. You got to
yeah,
stay ahead of the game.
yeah. All right, let's move on to earnings. Let's talk about money. One of the 4 times a year that tech reporters become business reporters. Let's talk about Microsoft earnings. All
It was
right.
my turn this time. So, pretty good quarter for Microsoft. Increasing revenue in pretty much every category they list.
Yeah.
The only thing I saw that where they were kind of negative, but not even really negative, was Windows products, I think, because they were shifting more towards subscriptions and services more so than products. So they declined a
Weird.
little bit.
Well,
But
Windows Pro grew 15%. Non-Pro continued to drop by 1%. And that's non-Pro has been going down for a long time. You know.
yeah,
Go ahead.
don't have much to say. It decreased. It continues to decrease. I only saw your post from last quarter, and I know it also decreased last quarter, and it
Yeah.
seems like it's happening a lot.
Yeah. So the big story from this earnings release was Intelligent Cloud, $9.7 billion in revenue, growth of 22% year over year, and so the big story is that Intelligent Cloud is now making almost as much as the second of the three businesses that Microsoft has. It's something that you kind of have to look at every time Microsoft does earnings because the message is always Azure, 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 cloud, cloud, cloud. And then when you look at their earnings report, like, yeah, there's strong growth there, but the division that makes the most money is the one with Windows and Surface and Xbox. It's
Yeah.
more personal computing.
Yeah, so there's still that's why they still have to care a little bit about Windows, at least a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, they love
Yeah.
Azure, they're all about Azure, but you can't just drop that completely because Windows is still. And Surface actually grew a lot this quarter too, 21%. I guess that's because
Yeah.
they launched new laptops in
Yeah,
last
Surface
quarter.
Pro
So
6 and Surface Laptop 2. So Surface is a tricky thing to look at on earnings reports, I think, because they don't have a regular yearly cycle with these products. Like an Apple earnings report, you can look at like the new iPhone comes out every September. So their Q1 is this the same when compared to last year. So they launched these things in October, and it is what it is.
yeah,
That
but
good.
Microsoft's just kind of all over the place. They just release new
Right.
things whenever they feel like it.
Whenever they feel like it. And by the way, this is the Q3 fiscal year 2018 or 2019 earnings, which everyone else knows as Q1 of calendar year 2019. Right? They have
Yeah,
their fiscal
this is
calendar.
always very confusing because
Right.
companies even use different time frames for the fiscal year. So you have some which have Q3 being like Q4 of the previous year, and then it's
Yeah.
strange.
So Windows OEM revenue, I just found it, as a whole grew by 9%. So you probably do some math there to find out how much of it is pro and how much of it is non-pro. By pro growing by 15%, non-pro dropping by 1%. I'm not going to try to do that math, but
Yeah,
you
but yeah,
know.
that seems like non-pro still has a lot of weight there then, because
Yeah, yeah. Um, Xbox Live monthly active users is down to 63 million. It was 64 million last quarter, which I don't know. I always like the first time they had a really big number. I remember that was after the quarter that Solitaire collection shipped for iOS and Android, and I mean, because like Xbox Live user monthly active users doesn't reflect actual Xbox console users, right?
oh yeah, because you can just be playing on Android and iOS now. It's just a lot of games and a lot of
Yeah.
platforms are using Xbox Live.
Soon coming to Switch.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's good. So once it comes to Switch, it can be 63 million and one, and you could be
I mean, I think
yeah.
Minecraft already uses Xbox Live too. Minecraft on the
Uh,
Switch, I think so.
oh yeah, it does. You're right. You're right. It does. Good point. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it coming to cup. I really hope that they bring Xbox Game Pass to the Switch.
Yeah, there
If
was a
you,
rumor around that, and that would be
yeah,
awesome.
I really think it would be awesome. Like, just I don't expect them to port the entire library, but it would be really nice if games that I could access on my Xbox, I could just access on the Switch as well. Like Cuphead, rather than having to buy it again, it would be really cool if I could just download it on my Switch.
Yeah, just play like it doesn't have to be streaming. It maybe with Microsoft's X Cloud thing coming up. Maybe that's the route there has to be the route they're taking probably.
Yeah,
'Cause, look,
could be. Yeah,
and there was a lot of rumors around that. And I think that'd be cool. It'd be the best for both of them because Microsoft is so much about services now, so they just don't really care that much if you buy an Xbox as long as you're playing Xbox games.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I wonder where they go with that, because they do seem like they want to be the cloud solution for all games, and that's why I feel like they're taking a step back from that console focus and focusing more on that broader picture, you know.
yeah, I think that's their goal in general with everything. They're just about services and cross-platform and all that in every division they have. So for Microsoft, it makes sense, and obviously Nintendo would benefit a lot from having Xbox games on the Switch. 'Cause there's a
Oh,
lot
I
of
think
things
they
that
could be wonderful partners to each other if they actually just win it all in on working together, you know.
yeah, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. All right, so back to earnings though. We have 10.2 billion in productivity of business processes, 14% growth. We talked about intelligent cloud, and then more personal computing is still the most with 10.7 billion and 8% growth, for a total of 30.6 billion. Anything else you want to add to earnings?
I don't think so. I'm surprised Surface keeps growing so much. I didn't think it was that big of a business for them. And I
Yeah,
also, yeah, I thought it was interesting also how LinkedIn is still growing 27%. I don't know how they're monetizing that.
I have no idea how that. I don't pay
But
too much attention to what's going on with LinkedIn. Surface, though, we have 1.3 billion in Surface revenue, right? 1.329 billion compared to, last quarter was 1.86 billion. So this is compared to the third quarter of fiscal year 18, which was 1.09 billion. And I see Surface growing. I see it growing as a brand. I think it's more fashionable to have one than ever. They're not for me, but
I actually really like them. I've never had one, but they look very, very cool. I'm a big fan of the design of the surfaces.
yeah. And I think that they sort of made Windows cool again, or maybe just cool. I don't know if it was ever cool before that. It's but if you go, you used to go to an event and you would just see those lit up Apple logos on the back of even
Yeah,
Microsoft
everywhere.
journalists,
Yeah.
and so that Surface logo is cool. I personally prefer a lot of stuff from Lenovo and HP and even Dell, but it definitely has that brand recognition, and I think it's going to continue to grow, especially as they continue to expand the lineup.
Yeah, I do really like the Surface. I hope it continues growing. Um, I just really like them, and it's cool how they really shook up things in that cool segment of the market because it was all Apple. Everyone was Apple.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
And so,
the premium segment was owned by Apple, and I don't think anybody ever believed that anybody could take it away from them. But Apple doesn't care about desktops anymore. you know?
yeah, that is true. They haven't really been doing anything. I mean, they have
I
a new
think it's
Mac
kind of,
Mini.
yeah, they I mean the MacBook Air is still pretty new also. I think that they left an opening, which is what you need to, like, when someone owns a certain market, like the premium PC market. Yeah, you kind of have to capitalize when they slip up, and I think Apple has slipped up. And whether they want to try to make up for that is up to Apple.
Yeah, let's see if they do. I don't know. I've been hearing it's like a modular Mac Pro maybe coming sometime. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Like fully upgradable. I think that would be interesting for Apple because they don't usually let you tinker with the insides of their stuff. But
Well, the Mac Pro they always have, because I mean, like the iMac or the iMac Pro, that those aren't meant to be opened
yeah,
up. But the Mac Pro, you've always had to be able to expand it, and that's why everyone hated the trash can Mac Pro, because it was so tiny and it didn't have all the space that the older, larger one did.
I wasn't aware that there was a version before the trash can. That's wow,
Oh
I
yeah,
was mixed up. Okay.
yeah. It's much bigger and it looks more like a traditional tower, to be honest.
Uh,
All right, let's talk about Chromium and Edge. Yeah, you
oh
using
yeah.
it?
Yeah. So we have um, Google Meet, the Google Meet scandal that's cropped up today,
Yes.
and we
Yeah.
also
So I
have a
mean,
new ad filmed.
yeah. So if you're in Edge Chromium and you go to Google Meet, you'll find a message that says Meet doesn't work on your browser, and then it will give you options to download either Chrome or Firefox. And this started happening about 2 days ago, spotted by Windows Central, and they also found that if you change the user agent string to Chrome, it just works. And there's no surprise there. So I reached out to Google for comment. Their official statement was, "We view the increased adoption of Chromium and WebRTC as positive for the entire unified communications industry. With the recent release of developer previews for Edge, we are thrilled to be able to offer a new preview experience of Hangouts Meet, and we plan to officially support it once it becomes generally available." So Google does not have a block list. They have an allowed list, and apparently the user agent string for Edge was changed, and it wasn't on that allowed list. What do you think?
I think that's a weird explanation. I mean, according to the report that from Windows Central, they said that, or at least what I saw Daniel Robino say is that it worked the day before, and then suddenly the next day it didn't work anymore. So it doesn't,
Right.
unless it was an overnight change like with Chrome Canary, but that doesn't make sense because it also stopped working in Edge Dev.
Right. It also
So
says, so how did they just change the user agent string like that? It
yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense. I know the obvious place to go with that is that it's Google again out to screw everyone that's not Google. And I mean, obviously, we don't know if that's true. It's just that I think Microsoft enthusiasts and Windows enthusiasts in general have a long history of resentments against Google.
yeah, that's true. We do like to blame them for everything,
Well,
but
it started with Windows Phone.
yeah, that's true. That only YouTube saga. That was I didn't live it, but I heard a lot about it, and that was weird. And this in this case, I don't know. I mean, they give you the option to download Firefox, but if you look at it from that perspective of Google is trying to do things wrong, I mean, a lot of people started using the new Edge coming from Chrome because Chrome is the most popular, arguably the best browser out there. And now they're using Edge and Edge stops working. I don't think it's very likely that they'll even try to download Firefox. They'll just go to Chrome again. So
Yeah, probably.
so I think that from that angle, you can see how Google is trying to do that, but there's no proof of anything. I'm not trying to accuse them, but this seems to happen often with Google, and so
I think
I'm
I
not
think you
sure.
wrote that story a while back about someone from Firefox that tweeted about how Google would constantly
Yeah,
break things and then they just say it was a mistake and fix it. But by the time that they fix it, you've already lost X amount of users.
exactly. Yeah, that was me. I remember. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Jonathan Nightingale or something. Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's the same thing that's happening here. That'd be kind of sad, actually, if they're still resorting to that kind of technique.
It
Uh,
would be kind of sad. I agree.
let's hope it's not. They say they're gonna support it, so we gotta wait to see. But it doesn't look great right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I never think it's fair to assume the intent, and I'm sure this happened where they would just keep breaking things and keep saying it was a mistake, and then we fix it. But I don't know if Google tests the changes they make on Firefox or on other browsers. So if you're just testing your changes on Chrome, like this thing breaks Firefox, you got to wait for Firefox to let you know that it broke. Um, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't work for Google, and I I try to play devil's advocate with stuff
Yeah.
like that sometimes because otherwise I just end up complaining about things, and everybody knows I love to complain about things.
Yeah, it's good to be devil's advocate. Someone has to do it because otherwise you're just all
Yeah.
lashing out at. Yeah,
By the way, the
but
other thing they did say is that they will officially support Edge once it's generally available. And we do have to remember that we are living in a preview right now. There isn't even a beta channel yet. So things are going to break sometimes.
yeah, we have to keep that in mind, and you have to at least give Google the chance to see if they actually support it when it becomes available. We can't just blame them and just be done with it. You have to give them time
Right.
now.
Right. And
And
then
yeah,
go
no, you go ahead.
ahead. I was just going to move on to the new Edge stuff that we got today.
Oh yeah, me too.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a new Edge Dev build, which is a weekly release, and it has support for 32-bit PCs, which I'm, I mean, there's still a very small amount. There's going to be fewer and fewer of those, so I'm surprised they're bothering to still add support for it, especially
They
before
have
other
to.
platforms. I mean,
They have to. I think.
yeah,
Uh, they
there's
have to
still a
support all
few.
Windows 10. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder how many there are. I'd love to get numbers on that. 800 million Windows 10 PCs. I'd love to know how many are 64-bit and how many are 32.
yeah, I mean, we could try to use the Steam metrics for that because they often break that down. But we have to keep in mind that Steam users are gamers and they're not going to be using 32 bits of versions of
That is
Windows.
true.
So we can't really scale that to a larger audience. But
Right. So this
yeah,
is something that was added to Canary 8 days ago, I think. And
yeah, and it was last week, sometime last week.
yeah. So now it's in the dev branch, which is great. It's a little more broadly available. Just a warning for Windows on ARM users, which there are none of in Portugal, I hear. Um, but if Windows on ARM users try to download Edge Dev now, they're going to get the x86 version of it. There's still no ARM 64 flavor just yet.
Yeah, that sucks because emulation, from what I hear, which I can't try, sucks.
Yeah, so it's really just browser emulation that sucks. It's because browsers are generating code as they run, and so that can't be cached in the same way that a regular app could be. I spoke in depth with Qualcomm about this at the Snapdragon Technology Summit in December, and they were telling me that the emulation is actually pretty good. It's really just browsers that don't work, and that's why they announced that Chromium and Firefox are coming to ARM64 native. So that's going to be great. And I going back to what we were saying about ARM before, I hope for a bright future for Windows on ARM.
Yeah, I think that it is the future of mobility in computing. I think that it has to be because it's such battery life is great, performance is great. It's got that
Yeah.
advantage of like transitioning from sleep to wake so much faster than Intel
Oh God,
processors
it's
do.
great. Yeah, it really is. Like to wake up your PC with the same speed that you wake up your phone, like you just click a button and it just comes up. It's great. And like it sounds stupid, but it's so awesome.
Yes, I can only imagine that it's convenient.
Yeah. The other thing you can only imagine. But the other thing that I really love about ARM is the built-in 4G LTE on the chips. There's the reason that I love that so much is because on an Intel PC, LTE comes at a premium, and you end up paying $100 to $150 more for your PC. So no one ends up buying an LTE model. I would like it if I pretty much want everything that's connected to the internet to have cellular.
Yeah, that is another big selling point, of course, because it can be connected everywhere. I mean, Wi-Fi is pretty widespread, and there's always open hotspots and whatever. But then there's security issues, and there might
Well,
not be
yeah.
open hotspots, so you never know.
There is a
So
security issue, but it's like we just talked about that convenience of the instant waking up and the convenience of not having to bother connecting to a public hotspot and not having a lot of them ask for your email address. You end up on their mailing list, or just not having to bother agreeing to terms and conditions and stuff like that.
Yeah, LTE is just always ready to go, and that's the whole point
Yeah.
with ARM PCs, and that sounds awesome.
And I do have Intel PCs with LTE, and they're great too. But this shouldn't be such a premium. Like, this is 2019. Everything should just be connected to the internet.
Yeah, we're at a point it doesn't make sense to be disconnected because of something like that. And yeah, with Intel PCs, you still get the fact that you can't wake up your computer that quickly. So there's
Yeah, I
always that
know.
advantage.
I know. All right, so back to the Edge Dev thing. We also have that more natural sounding voice with the read aloud feature, and then we have a bunch of fixes.
Yeah.
Some weren't listed.
Yeah.
Which Edge do you use?
I have both installed,
Which
and
ones do you use?
I've been using Canary. Is that how you say it?
Really? Yeah.
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 Okay. I've been using Canary the most, and actually, this release of Edge Dev worries me a little bit because starting this Monday with Canary, I started having a problem with version 75.0.137. Syncing just stopped working completely. Like after the update, I was logged out and then I logged in, and
Really?
syncing just never worked again. Even with the subsequent updates, it just never worked anymore.
Huh.
And now with the Edge Dev update to 139, I'm seeing the exact same problem. It stopped syncing as well.
Yeah.
So that's very
I'm just
strange.
gonna say I just clicked on the profile icon at the top and it says profile one and there's a button to sign in. So that's
Yeah,
bad news.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's what happened to me too. And then I sign in, it just doesn't sync.
I
And I've
signed in. It says it's syncing now.
mine just gave me an error. It's just
Okay.
always saying not syncing next to my profile picture.
Well,
And
hopefully it'll
that
keep syncing.
so I don't know why it does that. I reported it right away on the tech community forums. A lot of people seem to have been experiencing it. Some people say they've had it since Edge first launched. So I don't know. That didn't happen to me. With me, it's a recent thing. But now it's
Yeah.
happening on both versions of Edge, so it kind of sucks.
Well, that is
Uh,
not good.
yeah,
What one bug fix that I was looking forward to though was because I use Dev. I have both installed, but for day to day I use Dev. It should be a little safer. Not safer in security terms, safer as far as bugs. But
yeah.
there was a Facebook bug where you load up your Facebook, you scroll down, you have to load more posts, you have to click the button more posts, and like that scrolling bug has finally been fixed. It's been fixed in Canary for a while now.
Oh, so it's supposed to load automatically, but it didn't? Is that?
Yes,
Oh,
but
that's
like any other social network, it's
yeah,
supposed to just load as you scroll, and it wasn't
yeah.
doing that. It was
Oh,
bad.
that is very weird. I don't use Facebook, so I rarely use
Oh,
Facebook. So
well, look at you.
I try to not trying to gloat or anything. I really don't.
All right, we
Just
got two
going
more
out.
stories. You want to talk about Samsung?
Okay, so Samsung postponed the launch of the Galaxy Fold. I'm sure you've heard of it. Everyone heard of the scandal on how many screens were breaking, and that's
Yeah.
because, in part, because of the issue with that protective film that was on top of the phone that people thought was just a screen protector, but it wasn't. And when they peeled it off, it just started making the screen break. That happened to a lot of people,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
wild.
that's weird. And I mean, it just I guess they should have found a way to either warn people or just not have the film so visibly on the screen in a way that people wouldn't try to rip it off.
How about you make it part of the screen?
Yeah, yeah. Why not? I don't know why they didn't just make it a part of the glass or whatever it is that they
Yeah,
not glass because it can't be glass. But
like a polymer,
uh,
I'm sure.
yeah,
The phones have been shipping with plastic coating over it for forever, right? So
yeah,
we're used to pulling these things off.
yeah. It wasn't user fault, I would say, because Samsung didn't really tell us what they were
Yeah,
supposed to do, and a lot of phones come with screen protectors already. Mine does.
yeah.
Um,
There's also apparently problems with the hinge.
Yeah, some people also broke the display without taking that off. Something I
Yeah.
think so. A lot of issues, and not a good
Yeah.
look for a phone that costs $2,000. But at the
Hey, not a
same
good look for a
time,
company that had to recall all their Galaxy Note 7s either.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Oh.
it's the same thing all over again.
Well, not
And
the same thing, but yeah,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
similar to
yeah,
that
yeah. It's
quality
not.
perspective.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good for them. And
No.
but it's kind of to be expected in a sense because I mean it's just such a new product. It's not entirely surprising, but you wouldn't
Yeah,
expect someone like Samsung to jump into this and have that kind of issue. Like
I do
after,
expect them to jump into this. So, well, after the Note 7, I think they focus on quality a bit more. But I've always looked at Samsung as the type of company that wants to be first at everything, whether they get it right or not. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's like
uh,
Apple has that reputation of wanting to get it right before they ship something, even if sometimes they don't. Samsung, but if they wait a little longer to get it right, Samsung still wants to. They're going to make a commercial about how they were first, and they're going to make fun of Apple, and that's just kind of what they do, and that's kind of how I view them.
yeah. I actually, but yeah, I see that they like that a little bit, but I'm more on the side of what you said. Like after the Note 7, I thought they would have learned something, And
Yeah.
considering that it costs $2,000, you got to
Well,
be a
the
little
good
extra.
news is it hasn't shipped.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
at least they delayed it, so that's good.
yeah. How long do you think it'll be delayed for?
Who knows? I mean, if they're going to actually fix this, it's gonna take a while. If they have to do more research and development, it's gotta take some time. But I don't know.
Yeah.
They at least a couple
Yeah.
months for sure. But
I
like,
I
I don't know if they
I
want to
bet
fall
they're gonna
behind
fix
Huawei.
it.
You don't think they're
Oh
gonna
well, they're
fix it?
gonna fall behind. Well, I think they're gonna fix it, and I think they're gonna need to seed it to reviewers again before
Yeah,
they move forward.
yeah.
So there's gonna be, I'm gonna say it right now. Okay, no Galaxy Folds ship in 2019.
That is a bold claim, but
It is
I
bold,
mean,
but I'm going bold with this one.
but
You
it
know,
is possible. I mean,
it's got
we
a
know.
bad look already. They need to they have to make changes to the design. So they
Yeah,
have to kind of go back to the drawing board and relook some things, and they have to do a whole other round of testing. Then they're going to send it to reviewers first, and then they're going to say, "All right, we got this. Now we can ship it." They got to manufacture it all over again.
yeah, that is true. They're gonna have to make a lot of fundamental changes, so it's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
They don't want to get a bad look again. So yeah, they really have to fix it. So you have to rely on Huawei to see how the first foldable phone looks.
Now,
And
compared to Samsung, I have complete faith in Huawei.
I
Now
actually,
you tried that phone.
yeah, I was very surprised with how good it was. We didn't get to do a lot because they were very scared that we would break it. They didn't let us phone the phone ourselves because apparently they had a lot of people coming in, phoning it backwards and trying to break it. Which,
That's what I would have done. So
so
they wouldn't let you actually see how it feels to open it and close it.
no, they didn't let us actually do that. They did it in front of us, but we couldn't do it ourselves. Luckily,
Yeah.
I did it before they warned us. So
Nice.
so it felt sturdy. It's just for a couple of seconds before they screamed at me, but but it felt sturdy. Like it wasn't. It required some force, but it wasn't hard to do. It required just a little bit of force, and it felt
Do you
nice.
think it's a
And
device?
huh?
Do you think it'll be a useful device? Is it a gimmick? What do you think
Oh,
this will be a real world useful thing for us? Is the
well,
future full of phones?
I am not very good at forecasts, but I was surprised at how good it was
Just
to
make bold
use.
claims like I do at least.
I mean, everyone's saying they are the future, so I'm gonna stick with the crowd there because they are pretty cool, and I like the Huawei's concept a lot more because it phones the display phones outwards instead of going inside. Because with the Galaxy phone, you have this weird aspect ratio in the tiny, tiny display on the front that you just don't want to use. Like it's there, but do you really want to use that?
I wonder about the extra step of unfolding your phone before you use it, where you're more likely to do that on the Samsung, like you just said. The Huawei, maybe you're more likely to use it on the half screen that's facing you. And I wonder how people are going to feel about doing that, because there's a certain ease of use of just taking the thing out of your pocket, unlocking it, and using it, and then that extra step of unfolding the phone. Like 3D glass is an example. We had 3D TVs, but the truth is that no one really wants to put on glasses before they watch TV on their couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big point. The 3D thing is actually a nice example. Something I like about Nintendo and the 3DS and how it is glasses free and whatever that, because they also consider that, and that's a very valid point. That you're trying to relax or do something specific, and you don't want to have this extra step in between. But I think for foldable phones, at least for me, it's not something that you're going to be using all the time. It's not something that you want to use all the time, especially if you're on the go, because a lot of the time you just want to use the phone.
Thing is,
And
you're paying
so,
for it though.
huh?
You know what I mean? The thing is, you're paying for it though. Like Samsung's got a $2,000 phone, and Huawei's got a $700 phone. Like, you better be using that thing. You
Yeah,
know?
that is true. You won't be using, but I think it's like a specific use. Maybe if you're sitting down somewhere, you're using it for productivity, or for me personally, maybe more so media consumption. If you only watch a video on the bigger display, that could be
Yeah,
a good thing. But
that's true.
the thing about that for me, and that's still a concern I have, because phones still only phoned once, and then you get this weird aspect ratio that's like either 1:1 almost, or 4:3, or even something like that.
That's true.
And then the videos, even if you go full screen with them, they're 16:9. You end up not having that much more area for the video itself than you would on just a phone in landscape mode, because it's just the aspect ratio cuts into the video in that sense.
That's a very good
So
point.
for me, part of the solution could be folding twice. Like we saw that Xiaomi video earlier this year where it had
Oh
two things
yes.
folding out. That could help achieve like a wider aspect ratio on the big display. But we're still in the early stages of even just one phone. Imagine two or three phones. That's gonna take a while to get there. But I think
Yeah,
that
I think you're right. I think it's gonna take some time. I think it's gonna take some time before we realize like what the optimal way to do this is. We're gonna get different ideas. Like, we have Xiaomi, Huawei, and Samsung all have three completely different ideas on this.
Yeah, so we have these three concepts. Everyone is still exploring. So we don't really
Right.
know it, or if it's going anywhere at all. We have no idea. So, but it is
I
an interesting concept. I really like the Mate X. I did not expect to like it as much as I did.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Huawei makes a good phone. I like their products, and I think it's a shame we can't buy them in the United States from a carrier. You know.
That's one of the few things Portugal has that the United States doesn't, I guess.
Wow. Wow.
At least that we can have that. That's
All
we gotta
right.
wait
Last
for.
story. OnePlus 7 launch event scheduled for May 14th. Excited?
Yeah. Yeah, I always am kind of excited for OnePlus devices, because they're the flagships that are closer to a price that I can afford, even though I still
True.
don't. But I'm interested, and I'm intrigued by the possibility of it costing as much as the Galaxy S10, because that's a big departure from where we started with OnePlus, and
It
that
is.
$300 phone, or something like that, the
What, the
OnePlus One.
OnePlus One? That
Yeah,
was
300.
I think they had a 64 gigabyte version for 350, and I believe they had a 16 gig version for 299, but I think that one was very scarce if they ever actually released it at all.
Oh, okay.
Remember the
So,
invite system?
huh? Oh yeah.
Remember
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That was terrible. And they kept it for even the
Oh,
OnePlus 2 still had a little bit of it, right? And I think it's
oh,
only
I
the
actually thought it
three.
was great. I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the smartest things they did because the thing is that like smartphones are a very crowded market. So
Yeah,
it's very hard to start up as a new company and actually offer something that no one else is and get the people behind you. So what they actually did was it's almost like the Windows Insider program was like they built a fan base and it started by like if you wanted this phone, you had to kind of work for it. You had to know someone that had one, or you could hang out in the OnePlus forums for a few days asking people because when you bought one, you got 3 invites to give away. So most of the people would just go to the OnePlus forum and say, "Hey, I got a couple invites. Does anybody want them?" And then you would kind of beg for your invite. And then when you got it, I think people felt accepted to where they got this phone. Now they're a OnePlus fan for life. I thought it was smart.
yeah, it's kind of like a reward system of sorts. Just
Yeah.
for being able to buy it is a home reward on its own.
Yeah, because you're
So
part of a community now. Like it's like the Windows Insider program.
yeah, that does make some sense. I see that approach as how that benefits maybe the community and that sense of
Yep.
belonging in a way. But yeah, for
People hated
sales,
it.
yeah,
They hated that they
yeah,
had to work for it, but once they did,
yeah, exactly.
they loved the device.
Yeah,
Because
it
that
was.
I had. Did you have the OnePlus One?
No, I've never bought a OnePlus phone actually.
Oh, okay. I had it, and they were terrible. Well, but the phone wasn't terrible on its own, but there was a lot of people that had defective units. Like the flash on my camera was messed up. If you use the flash, half the picture would be bright, the other half would be dark. It was weird.
What?
And I went through support with them for probably a couple months. And then finally, like I wasn't with Neowin at the time. I had my own website, and I took screenshots of all the emails going back and forth with them, and I just posted them all. And I was like, "This is how bad OnePlus customer service actually is." And then like 2 days later, they were sending me a new unit, and that's how
Oh,
bad it was to deal with them at the time.
right. So yeah, they just wanted to like look good in the press and not.
Yeah, right.
But
But that's the sacrifices that you were making to get that Snapdragon 801 phone for $350. And obviously now they have actual marketing teams and customer support, and they're sold through a real U.S. carrier now. They're a much different company than they were, but they're not selling phones for as cheap as they used to.
yeah, of course, because they can. There's all
Yeah,
those costs now. All of that costs money.
right.
So the invite system had that advantage for them that they could lower the price because they didn't really market it in any other way aside from word of mouth. Basically, that's all it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it
So
really was, and they did a great job of it. The only problem that I have with OnePlus these days is that I don't think that they make the best phone. I think that it's a very good phone, and you get a lot of value for the price that you're paying for it. But you're not getting anything that's actually much better than the competition, which I think that's what they were promising in the beginning.
yeah, that's true. They call themselves the flagship killers, and that's what
Yeah,
people knew them for.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's definitely not what they're doing. That I agree with you there. They just I think they offer the best value for your money, but not the best phone. And I don't think you can offer the best phone if you're charging half as much as the big guys are. That's
I
not
think
easy
part
to
of the
do.
problem I think part of the problem is that we gauge flagship phones based on the CPU that's inside, don't we? I mean, if
Yeah,
it's got a Snapdragon 855, we call it a flagship. It could have a 480p screen, 2 gigs of RAM, and we still say, oh, it's a flagship. It's got a Snapdragon 855 in there. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So it's I mean, they're good phones. I'm not trying to say they're bad phones. They're good phones. You get a lot of value for the whatever it is going to be, $600. And then also we're expecting a second phone, right? So that's the one that's supposed to be the price of the Galaxy S10 and have 5G and a 90 hertz
yeah,
display. Is that what we're expecting?
yeah. 90 hertz. That's what the rumors are pointing at least
Yeah.
the reports. So and yeah, I mean, but if even if that's the case, if it's only the more expensive model, that's the same price of the S10. That's not so bad because you're looking at a phone with 5G and a 90 hertz display, which the Samsung S10, the Galaxy S10 doesn't have in its regular variant, anyways. And you have that for the same price, so you're still getting that. In that sense, you're getting more value still, even if
Yeah,
you're paying
that's
the
true.
same.
It's true. I wonder who they would be making a 5G phone for. Do you know? Because we had that Galaxy S10 5G. That's for Verizon. It should be coming for AT&T pretty soon, probably Sprint. But T-Mobile hasn't really talked much about 5G. You know, obviously CEO John Legere likes to bash Verizon's 5G and AT&T's
Yeah.
5GE, but they don't really talk about their own because really the truth is that they're behind everyone else. And I wonder if this could be T-Mobile's first 5G phone.
That would be a possibility. I mean, they've partnered with T-Mobile. They're the only ones they've partnered with, right? The 6T, I
Yeah.
think, came out on T-Mobile. That was it.
Yes, and that was their
So,
first carrier partnership.
so that would make sense if it's T-Mobile. But like you said, T-Mobile is behind. I mean, sometimes we hear about their 600 megahertz,
Megahertz, yeah.
yeah, megahertz spectrum. They make tests on that, but it's like they
I
really
don't know
haven't.
what they're doing with that because they're see. So all right. So for those who don't know, 5G there's millimeter waves and then there's sub-6. So the fastest is going to be the millimeter waves, which are very high frequency, but those are also like they can
They're
be blocked by something as simple as a leaf from a tree, and that's why we're going to see base stations on like every street corner when this happens. And so there's a lot of infrastructure work that has to get done to roll this out, and so it's going to take a while. But on the other hand, we have sub-6. So T-Mobile promised at one point to make 600 megahertz fast enough to be considered 5G.
Yeah, that their plan is to. They say they're gonna like spread out their 5G coverage through all those segments. They have sub-6, they have the millimeter wave, and then their own 600 megahertz. They say they're gonna have 5G in all those areas. And if they do, I think that's the best approach because there's a lot of rural areas where you just can't afford to be putting millimeter wave antennas in every street or something because it's just not worth it.
Well, the thing
So I
is that
think,
even if they do, I mean, it's not going to help you while you're inside your home.
yeah, exactly. So 600 meg, I like T-Mobile's approach of using 600 megahertz, but like you said,
Yeah,
it's just we haven't heard much about it, so it's anyone's guess when that's happening.
that's true. It would be cool if they showed up at the OnePlus event and kind of talked about it.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I'll be
Like,
there.
oh,
I
you're going to the, oh, that's nice.
oh yeah, I'll be there. I I mean, I went to the 6T event last year, and it was, they have a nice event. Not great lighting in the demo area, but that's okay.
Yeah, from what I hear, no one has very good lighting in the demo areas. Only Apple, but we don't get to go to
Did I?
those.
No, I don't go to those. Whenever they announce a new event, I tend to send them snarky emails. I just want their press contact, and I'll just be like, clearly my email address has slipped off of your list, and it must have been a problem with your database. So I just wanted to keep you informed that I'm not doing anything that day. Because I know like I'm never gonna get a response. Like if like even if they have a news story and I try to get a statement from them and I just get no response. So I mess with them. That's what you get.
They're just yeah, they're too snobby. They're just
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't say that too much because then we're really never gonna get invited. But see, the way I figure it, all bets are off anyway because we're already never going to get invited.
Yeah. So let's just try not to make things worse. Maybe
Yeah,
it does.
that's what I'm saying. All right, so let's end this here. That's everything we got for today. Where can you be found on Twitter? Where do you want to be found?
Okay, so on Twitter, I go by the handle Indospot. That's INDOSPOT. And that's probably the best place to follow me because I don't do anything else. So, and
Nice.
of
I
course,
don't do anything else either. It's just Twitter all day. Wait, oh no. Well, you're not on Facebook. I forgot.
yeah. I mean, if you
Cool.
want, I can try to use Facebook if you really insist, but I
It's
prefer
okay.
Twitter.
It's okay. All right.
But
So let's just sign off there, and that's it. So by the way, I'm at the Rich Woods on Twitter. I should say that
yeah,
also. And so this is gonna be a weekly thing. We're gonna record it on Fridays and we'll publish it over the weekend. So if you're watching this is the beta episode and you have feedback, feel free to leave a comment for us and we would love any feedback that you have. All right. You good? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, also, if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to answer in a future episode or something like that, just let us know also in the comments. We're always listening. And yeah, we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yes, we will. No, we'll definitely see you next week. All right.
With the less beta version of this.
Yes. And then the first one is after build.